However, on the other hand, this is the, again, it does sort of feel like in this election, the more you zoom out, the better it looks for Republicans. The more you zoom in, you start to have more questions.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and put this next piece up on the screen. An Arizona judge ruled that Arizona can't enforce their near total abortion ban that was passed before Arizona was even a state. Okay, back in 1901 was when this ban, which is quite draconian, it bans all abortions in the state except when the procedure is necessary to save the mother's life. The way that has been interpreted in other places is actually extremely stringent. It's not like we can foresee a complication for the mother. It's like, no, you have to be on death's doorstep today for us to move forward with this abortion. Of course, doctors very concerned about liability and getting jailed for performing an abortion on a woman who they deemed life to be at risk. But, a judge then comes in and says, no, we don't think her life was at risk. It's a really draconian ruling. Abortion rights advocacy group Planned Parenthood said the ruling, quote, has the practical and deplorable result of sending Arizonans back nearly 150 years, which is kind of literally true. Democratic gubernatorial nominee Katie Hobbs said she was, quote, outraged and devastated by the decision. The Republican attorney general said, we applaud the court for upholding the will of the legislature from 1901 and providing clarity and uniformity on this important issue. You can hear in the difference in that rhetoric there, the Republican is just trying to be as neutral as possible. And the Democrats are clearly guns blazing, ready to raise hell about this decision.
Yeah, I think that's, like you said, you zoom out and I'm like, look, you got high crime, you got high inflation. You zoom in and you're like, well, Carrie Lake is kind of crazy. I'm like, Blake has gotten himself in some problems. I'm like, abortion obviously is if on the off chance that they do lose, not off chance, in the relative toss up that they do lose, this will probably be because of why. And President Biden really trying to lean into this, make it as much about abortion as possible, and spoke about that at a recent rally. Let's take a listen.
But if you give me 2 more Democratic senators in the United States Senate, I promise you, we're going to codify Roe.
First time I've heard him say that so declaratively, Krystal.
Yeah,
on the
I think that's really
trail.
significant, actually.
That is quite significant. I mean, it'll be a big fundraising draw. The Dems have a hell of a lot of money. Mark Kelly's swimming in cash. He's got over 100 million in reserve. John Fetterman's got a ton of cash. So to the extent that they might be able to overcome this, it's probably going to be on the backs of this. At the same time, Oz has been pretty good about handling it, way better than I think than Blake Masters. So I don't know. I think Blake is probably the one who is in the biggest trouble on abortion of all of the candidates who were in the toss-up states.
Yeah. Well, and he seems like he knows that.
I mean, his own.
By the fact that he went in and edited his own website to be like, that stuff I said during the primary, I don't really feel that way anymore. The play here politically is very clear. Democrats want abortion to be very clearly on the ballot in every single Senate race. And Lindsey Graham, I think, gave them a little bit of an assist with that, because you could say, yeah, okay, Oz has been okay on abortion, but you can point to that and say Republicans, if they get power, they want to ban abortion. They want to institute abortion bans that are, nationwide. This whole messaging that they tried to lean into of we just want to leave it up to the states. Lindsey Graham sort of, blew a hole in that. Now you have Biden very clearly saying, hey, making a case, because previously it wasn't clear of, all right, so you already have control of the Senate and you haven't done anything really with it in terms of abortion protection. So what would be different this time around if we give you back control of the Senate? So he's saying really clearly here, hey, if I can get the troublemakers mansion and cinema out of the way, then we actually could get, what this means is get rid of the filibuster, at least for abortion rights, in order to codify Roe. That's what he's making the case for here. And so I think, Democrats would be smart to really beat that drum across the country, make it really clear that there's something, quite tangible at stake here, that they make a really hard and fast commitment. You saw this with material politics, which I still think are, the most important thing to people's votes in those Georgia Senate elections, where there was a really clear Democratic promise, hey, you get these guys in, you're going to get checks. That worked out in Georgia. You also had Trump giving them the assist there. Could a similarly like tangible, clear promise with regards to abortion be as powerful as those material politics were in the Georgia Senate elections? Remains to be seen, but I do think it's a smart play from the Democrats.
Yeah, very smart. To the extent that this will have the biggest impact, I think it's in the state of Arizona because it makes it much more real. Yes. As we saw in Kansas, when it's real, people will actually come out to vote. It's not as abstract and all the way up at the national level. So we'll see whether, like, you know, we have to point out both sides of the story. On one hand, things are good. On the one, or for Republicans, on the other, if they screw it up, this will be why. So let's all pay attention very closely.
I mean, overall, I tend to agree with you that the material politics of just people feeling like the economy is really shitty and being dissatisfied probably is what ends up being determinative. But hey, we'll see. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.